Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Bundesliga Show, brought to you by Over the Bar with your hosts, myself, Rory Petre, and Mark Broadhurst. Welcome, sit back if you're tuning in and enjoy the show, which is going to be a brilliant show because today, this weekend, the Bundesliga has truly arrived in an absolute fantastic weekend's worth of football. Goals galore, dodgy defending, the lot. Topped off with a wonder goal this evening, Sunday, as we're recording, which is absolutely amazing. Before we get into the details, just as always, go through our little bits of admin. So please, if you're watching on YouTube, give us a subscribe, hit that big red button. That really helps us out. Click the bell icon so you don't miss a thing either. If you're listening on an audio platform, also drop us a subscribe and leave us a rating and review. Thank you very much indeed. So before we go to Mark for the Anagram segment, this week we've been working, beavering away in the background and been coming up with some new names for our fresh content that we always do for you. So I'm going to hand over to Mark for Mark's newly named segment, Mark's Mystery Anagrams. So Mark, you've newly named content. What have you got for us this week?
Yes, indeed. So if you guys remember, last week's Mark's Mystery Anagram was, as you can see on the bottom of your screen now, it was Ramble Craziest. So remember, guys, as I always tell you, for the new viewers, which we are getting more and more of every week, Ramble Craziest, it has to be something related to a manager, a player, or a team from the Bundesliga. Remember, it has to be number one Bundesliga related. So yeah, so last week, actually, nobody got it correct. So come on, guys, you've really got to up your game. The last few we've had correct, but this week, no, absolutely nobody got it right. So come on, guys. Next week, we really, really want you to get it correct. But it was actually quite a difficult one, to be honest, this week. Quite a typical Germanic name. So maybe that confused a few people this time. So yeah, it was, as you can see at the bottom of your screen, it was the excellent Leipzig playmaker, MARCEL SABITZER. So yeah, he actually scored as well this week. So maybe it was a good omen or something for them. Yeah, he did. He got the penalty in the Leipzig game, which we'll talk about a bit later. So yeah, so let's move on to Mark's new mystery anagram, which, as you can see at the bottom of your screen now, is race rooms. So remember, guys, if you are listening on our brand new podcast as well, which you can check out on Spotify and on Apple, just take your pen now because you can do it for interest at home. It's race, R-A-C-E, rooms, R-O-O-M-S. So race rooms, it has to be something related to the Bundesliga, a player, a manager, or a club. Get commenting in our comment section and get involved with us. We love interacting with you guys, so please get involved with that. So that ends our first Mark's Mystery Anagram under the new name. And now we're going to swiftly move on to all of the final results of this brilliant, fantastic Bundesliga weekend. This is exactly why we love the Bundesliga. This is why we tune in every week to watch this great league. And as you can see on the bottom of your screens now, you can see the correct results as well. Yeah, so let me just go through those results. So on Friday night, we had probably the worst game of the week, in all honesty. We had a 1-1 draw, Werder Bremen versus FC Cologne. Another 1-1 draw on a Friday night. It seems as though if any of you guys are betting men, you need to back the 1-1 draw on the Friday night games. Yeah. Moving on to our Saturday kickoffs, we had Augsburg 0, Hertha Berlin 3. Good win for Hertha there. And then an entertaining 2-2 draw between Mainz and Schalke 04. The first point for Mainz this season. We had a Leipzig 3, Freiburg 0 as well, a comfortable home win there. Then we had a brilliant 5-0 win for Union Berlin at home to faltering Bielefeld. Then we had another really, really entertaining game, 2-2 between Stuttgart and Frankfurt, one of the games of the weekend in my eyes. Then we had Der Klassiker, the first Der Klassiker of the season, and it didn't disappoint at all with a brilliant 3-2 win for FC Bayern Munich away in Dortmund, so a brilliant statement win for them. Then moving on, we also onto the Sunday games, another 2 really entertaining games, which ended Wolfsburg 2, Hoffenheim 1 in the early kickoff. The second Sunday Wolfsburg win, and the second 2-1 home win as well for them this season. And then another, probably the second biggest game of the weekend, another Big Five. I think we can call it the Big Five now in Germany. Another encounter between 2 of Germany's kind of Big Five names, ended in a brilliant 4-3 win for Leverkusen, a topsy-turvy battle at home against Borussia Mönchengladbach. So that tops our fantastic weekend of Bundesliga action this weekend.
Good stuff. Yeah. So we'll go straight into it in a moment's time. And what we'll be doing is we'll be going into the newly named OTBs. So obviously it stands for Over the Bar. OTBs featured 4. So this is the part where we concentrate on 4 games from the weekend. It's been ridiculously hard to choose this weekend. Such a selling point this weekend from the Bundesliga. Every game absolutely spot on. Could have been a featured 9, but we've had to make our decision. So we're going to start, of course, with the Klassiker, the game that finished 3-2. Mark, do you want to set us off on a bit of a tangent then with this game? What are your thoughts and feelings with this particular Der Klassiker game?
Yeah, I mean, in many ways, as good as a game it was, in some ways it was kind of predictable, I guess. I mean, obviously Dortmund getting 1-0 ahead, which they so often do in these kind of big games, you know. But then, I mean, no less than 2 minutes later, Bayern are already level from a deflected free kick. I mean, again, it's just, could Hummels have prevented it on the line? It did take a little nick, but maybe he could have prevented it. I mean, it wasn't going at the fastest speed, I guess, but I guess it's easier said than done for us here in our living rooms, you know. Then, obviously, an unbelievable header again from, in my eyes, the best player in the world, Lewandowski, as soon as that second half. So from 41 minutes, you've gone from Dortmund 1-0 to 48 minutes, you've gone to 2-1 behind, you know. I mean, in many ways, this just sums up the last couple of years from both of these clubs, doesn't it, really? I mean, Dortmund's so classy going forward, but they just cannot keep teams out, especially the better teams, you know. And I think, obviously, Bayern, character in abundance, you know. You've just got no limit of character and quality in that side. And then obviously Sane, he's been a little bit quiet, really, hasn't he, since he joined? I mean, obviously it was the big summer signing, but with a really a classic Sane goal, really, to kind of finish the game off. Obviously Haaland with a decent finish to make it 3-2 with his first Der Klassiker goal, by the way. But I mean, ultimately it was Bayern's day. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, obviously when you look at the facts, it's a fantastic statement win for Bayern. And I think Goretzka said after the game, it's more than just 3 points. It's more than just a win. These games, obviously, by name and by title, are huge games between the 2 rivals that are often going for the Bundesliga title, and going away naturally without fans is obviously a difference. But going away to Dortmund and winning is a huge thing for this team, especially losing, obviously, who is a leader for them at the moment by in the shape of Kimmich to injury. And he basically did it trying to hurt someone else when he was stopping the counter-attack, I think. So, I mean, he's taken one for the team massively there. But they're just able to recover, bring on quality, and obviously it's fantastic to watch both teams going forward. It's just electric. Obviously, from Bayern's point of view, you've got Lewandowski, the world-class striker, and then it's just accompanied by this plethora of talent around him. Obviously, Sané's come on and made the difference, and you think killed the game at 3-1. Then Dortmund come back with a fantastic response. I think it was Guerrero whose ball it was through to Haaland. That's a fantastic ball, that, to make it 3-2. And then Haaland being quite self-critical, I thought, in the press match conference afterwards, saying that he needs to be more clinical. He needs to score more goals. I thought it wasn't his best game because he did miss a few chances, and that's quite unlike him. So yeah, it's one of those ones where it's an absolute classic. If you're a Dortmund fan, you're coming away absolutely gutted, but your team, put up a fantastic fight and fantastic game. But it's just one of those ones where you just feel that, Bayern have done it again. And it's just one of those ones they go on their merry way, and they'll be feeling very, very confident now, won't they?
Yeah, I think it certainly wasn't a bad performance from Dortmund by no means. As you say, I think in the first half they probably had the better of it. As you say, Haaland missed a couple of chances at 0-0. They eventually get a really good goal from Royce. But then it's just, you see, this is where titles are decided on. This is where, like, when you get that 1-0, you've got to be going in at 1-0 up, because then obviously Bayern, they have the team talk ripped into pieces. They have to chase the game, which I don't think would have really fazed them, to be honest, given what they've won in the last few years. They are the best team in Europe in my eyes by perhaps a distance at the minute, really. I don't think they'd have been too phased, but I mean, as Dortmund, you've got to be going in at half-time leading in that situation, and it's just, I mean, I think I agree with you, Rory, that I think Dortmund played well in general. I don't think it was a poor performance, but it's, in my eyes, football is decided on these moments. This is how tight one. It's like you've got to show that little bit of mental strength to get in there at half time. This is how you beat teams like Bayern, and to concede literally like a minute or two later, it's just it's poor, really. It's just, and it was a scrappy goal, really, to concede. As I say, free kick, deflected free kick on the edge of the box. But I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed the game. I mean, I always love watching these two teams play. I think, can you really find two more entertaining sides in Europe, really? I would add Leipzig in there as well. I mean, obviously, as big fans of the Bundesliga, we're really lucky to have so many entertaining sides in the Bundesliga, It's one of my favorite things that the teams, they just attack. They don't know how to sit on a lead, really, in this league. The top teams, I don't think.
Yeah, definitely. I think, obviously, from a selling point of view, if you're not a massive Bundesliga fan and you're just tuning in and you've seen all these goals this weekend, that is what it is like every weekend, give or take. Obviously, there's not been a huge selling point if you're a defender and you're a fan of 0-0s. That's probably not what you're going to see much in the Bundesliga, because there are certainly some questionable defending across the 18 teams this weekend. But yeah, it's an absolute delight to see these talented players doing their thing. And obviously, we want to see a really competitive title race as much as we want to see a competitive battle against relegation and everything, battle for European spots as well. And I think we don't want to jump the gun too early and say, that's it. Bayern are now going to cruise to the title, because I think that's far from the case. Certainly, Dortmund will want to be in the argument, and RB are playing really good football as well. So I think it's definitely too early to say that Bayern are just going to walk it. There's lots of football to be played. There's lots of commitments from the European side of things. So I think the title race is still wide open, and those sort of games that we've just seen this weekend from the Classica just go to show that Bayern aren't invincible by any stretch. Teams can get at them. It's kind of amazing to think how Hoffenheim, caught them cold, and now they've been struggling somewhat. But also, we'll talk about Hoffenheim a little bit later on. So there's certainly ways of doing it, but right now, Bayern, into their football, playing so well, are looking pretty ominous at the moment. But what a fantastic game of football it was.
Yeah, definitely. I think I totally agree with you on the point when you say that. I think a lot of neutrals now, they'll be saying, yeah, it's Bayern's title after 7 games. But I think I do think over the last few years that the Bundesliga has been gradually improving in quality year on year. And I think we've had a couple of our guests have touched on it the last few weeks. It is, in some ways, it's a pity that Bayern are just so good, really, because I think otherwise we would literally have 5 teams that could all win the league this year. I really do. From what I've seen so far, watching a lot of Bundesliga football, I do think there's 5 real top sides in this league, and these are 2 of them. We've seen it in Europe as well. I mean, you only have to look at the results in Europe. Obviously, we'll talk more about that in our special show which we'll talk about more later. But I mean, it's been a great first 3 rounds for Bundesliga teams in Europe, you know, and I'm just really looking forward to the rest of the season. Okay, so let's move on to our second Bundesliga featured game. And I mean, this was arguably an even better game in some ways, again, between 2 of Bundesliga's big 5, if you want to call them that. And it was Leverkusen 4, Borussia Mönchengladbach 3. I mean, what a topsy-turvy game. I mean, this is what the Bundesliga is all about, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, the defending, as you said, I mean, I think some of the, if you're Jamie Carragher, then you don't want to watch this game, you know. But I mean, for an entertainment point of view, I mean, this is what I want to see when I check in for a football game. I want to see goals, incident. I mean, this game had it all, didn't it, Rory?
Yeah, it was completely topsy-turvy. It's genuinely hard to keep up with, really. Scrambling around trying to make some notes about the game. There's been another goal already. It was amazing, really. And obviously, the start that Gladbach made, they kind of got themselves out in front. And Lars Stindl, obviously evergreen, getting a couple of goals for himself there. But then obviously Leverkusen have just started to hit form themselves. They've been scoring goals quite freely recently. So then we move on to the hot striker in the league, you know, up there with Haaland and Lewandowski as Alario, who then curls in an absolute worldie of a goal to make it. That's to make it 2-1. So then we're obviously looking at the game starting to become a little bit more level. And then it was just an impossible game to keep in touch with. Obviously, Leverkusen started to gain a bit more momentum after that. And then Alario obviously pops up himself to head in to make it 2-2. And then again, the game's turned. Obviously, there's a bit more momentum coming for the home side. And then Leon Bailey then turns up and scores his first goal of the season, and he had a really good game. He was really exciting, really good on the front foot for Leverkusen, and just before obviously that happened, Gladbach had a massive chance as well. I mean, there were so many of them. I think at 2-0 or at 2-1, Gladbach had a real good chance where they struck the bar from about 8 yards out. There was literally anything and everything could have happened in that game. And then, of course, it goes to 4-2, and you're kind of thinking, right, Leverkusen just going to wrap up obviously a really important victory, which pushes them back up into the top 4, and they're looking to obviously really improve on how they started the season. And then the last goal of the game, I mean, where does that come from? From Lazaro, just the innocuous ball played in, and then he back heel volleys it into the net. Like, that is up there with the goals that you've seen from like Giroud and other players like that in recent years gone by. I think Mkhitaryan did one as well not so long ago. But what a goal that was! I mean, I don't know if he means it or not, but fair play to him. And they come. I think they had a couple of corners just after that, potentially to try and get a leveler, but they ultimately couldn't. Again, both sets of fans have got to be very proud of the performance their teams have put in. Another massive selling point for the league. It's finally a Sunday game has delivered. Feel like we've been waiting for that for a little while in terms of the Bundesliga scheduling. Got this one absolutely bang on because, it was 2 teams in really good form. Because obviously Gladbach absolutely destroyed Shakhtar during the week, scoring lots of goals. I thought it was quite interesting to see Plie on the bench after his hat-trick during midweek. Like, he was obviously on a hot run of form. But they've got Brian Bolo, and then obviously Thuram to fit in with Stindl, who's, the kind of the glue. So, I mean, I'm exhausted just talking about the game, let alone the players are playing in it. Absolutely fantastic game.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to remember also that you mentioned the European games. Leverkusen, they played away in Israel on Thursday night. That was a 4-hour flight, I think,
Yeah.
And they had a late evening kickoff in Israel, and they come back and put in a performance. And they went with a strong side as well, not a completely full side. But I mean, what a performance, really. I mean, we always expect from Peter Bosz' side they're going to score a lot of goals, but I think we both criticised them a little bit early on that they were lacking a little bit of flair in the first few games. But I mean, 4 wins in a row now, and boy, they're scoring goals left, right, and centre, and it's great to see, really. I think I mentioned earlier in my predictions before the season that I thought they'd come second, Leverkusen. I think after the first 3 games, people were probably thinking, what? You know, they're nowhere near a second place side. But I mean, this is the kind of Leverkusen that I expect. You know, we saw it a lot at the back end of last season as well. I mean, defensively, despite having a solid defender in Jonathan Tah, they're not the strongest defensively, to be honest. I mean, they do concede goals, but they have the mentality that we're going to score more goals than you, I think. I mean, this is the second week in a row they've scored 4 goals, and also the second week in a row they've come from behind as well. They conceded their first goal in both of those games. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a great performance. It's a great run. Yeah.
Yeah, they certainly obviously have this mentality at the moment that they never feel out of a game. They're scoring freely. They've now got a striker who's really settling into his role. I think that's his sixth goal, which draws him level with Kramaric, I think, on 6 goals, as well as Haaland, perhaps. So that's obviously they've now kind of got that focal point in terms of a striker, and then they've got a lot of pace outside of that. So they're starting to really settle into their football, and they're looking really good going forward. For Gladbach, I wouldn't say it's a massive disaster. Obviously, they've scored three goals, and naturally they'll be disappointed to have conceded 4. But it was one of those big games. Obviously, they come away pointless, which is obviously very harsh in this circumstance. I think they might have dropped the odd place in the table, but the way they're playing, they're such an exciting side to watch as well. I've got no reservations or worries about them picking up form again after the international break, and I'm sure they'll be well rested and will come back strong. So, yeah, fantastic from both teams. Absolute pleasure to watch the game.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point. Gladbach also, I mean, they're another side who play in a similar way, really. You know, very, very attacking side, great to watch. They score goals everywhere, don't they, really? Yeah. Like, even when they concede goals, as you say, in the Champions League, like, just a brilliant side to watch at the minute. They've got quality all across that front line and in the midfield. It's a good team, and as you say, I don't think their fans they'll be gutted because it's a derby game as well. Both of those sides are pretty close by in the northwest of Germany. But I still think, I mean, they've got to accept that this is a quality Leverkusen side with quality all over the midfield and the front line as well. So, yeah, so let's move on to the third game, which was another classic, really. I mean, a classic more in the, not so much a quality classic, but more of an entertaining game considering what was lying on it, really, which was indeed Mainz 2, Schalke 04 2. Obviously, Mainz picking up their first point after 6 straight defeats. I think we mentioned last week that they really needed to stop the rot and they needed a point, even if it was just a home point against a struggling team. And that's exactly what they got this week. I mean, obviously, 2 penalties getting the goals. To be honest, I think both of the decisions were correct. Again, good refereeing mostly in the Bundesliga. We mentioned it last week. I mean, I can't fault any of the decisions despite some questionable, what some people might, if you look at that game and you see it on the score sheet, you'll think, oh God, there's some dodgy decisions going on there. But no, I think they were all correct from what I saw. I think obviously Mainz so close to getting the win, but then a really, really scrappy equaliser in the last 10 minutes. Like, that's just classic Mainz in many ways, isn't it? I mean, it's Schalke, I would say they didn't deserve a point. They did create chances during the game. I mean, there's no question, but I think it was a case of Mainz having maybe 7 or 8 good chances and Schalke having maybe 4 or 5 good chances. But I think really Mainz should have got the 3 points and it should have been another defeat for Schalke. But I mean, Rory, would you say like both sides would be happy, or who will be the happiest with that point?
Well, I mean, who will be the happiest? Probably Schalke, as you mentioned it. Based on the flow of the game, it seemed that Mainz probably deserved to take the 3 points. They'll naturally again be gutted because they've turned up, scored 2 goals again. Obviously, they've been scoring a couple of goals in the last couple of rounds as well. So they're starting to get on a bit of a roll with that. Mateta's now got a couple. He's got another goal. So he's doing his best up top. the problem is that when you're 2-1 up and it's a close game, retaking the lead via the penalty from Mateta, and then obviously there's 2 one-on-one chances that are both missed, one by Mateta himself. Naturally, if you go on and get that second goal, it's huge. Like for against a team like Schalke who are struggling themselves, then their mentality will be like, oh, we can't get 2 goals back. But as long as you're still in the game, minutes to go, there's always a chance, isn't there? No matter who you're playing against, you can throw bodies into the box and whatnot. And so Schalke have obviously managed to get themselves what could be a crucial point. The table certainly would have been even more condensed if Mainz had got that win. And now it's kind of starting to emerge that there's a bit of a, say a bottom 5 at the moment that we're starting to see who are seemingly struggling right now anyway. So yeah, Mainz will be absolutely gutted because this was a big game for them, especially at home. Schalke obviously have been struggling, and they themselves did create chances. Obviously, Uts managed to get himself a goal, and he's missed chances as well. So it was one of those games where both sides are desperate for that first win, of course. And the problem is that even with Mainz taking the lead, their mentality wouldn't have been very strong. They would always be worried about conceding that goal, and lo and behold, it's happened. So the point's more useful for Schalke as they've got a couple more on the board already. Mainz themselves, obviously, they've got to think about it positively. They've been scoring goals in the last few games. They've now got themselves on the board. Like we said last week, scrappy draw if it has to be. Get yourselves on the board and get a bit of positivity around the club. So fair play to them. They're on the board now. Hopefully they can go on and get that first big win, much like Schalke, because we don't want to see both of these clubs too far adrift at the bottom of the table early on. So was an interesting game to watch. And hopefully both teams can take it forward as a positive into their games after the international break.
Yeah, to be honest, I see more quality in Mainz and Schalke. Having watched that game, I definitely think there's more quality in the Mainz side. But it's just they concede goals left, right, centre, and from underneath, from above, from everywhere. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yeah. I mean, defensively, I don't even know what to say about them, to be honest, at times. But I do think, let's focus a little bit positive on Mainz this week. And I do think there is quality up top. They do create chances. As you say, after the first 3 games, which were just a disaster, they have been creating chances and scoring goals in the last few weeks, definitely. And I think there is enough in there because, as you mentioned, it is like a bottom 5 now. It seems as though Bielefeld are getting worse by the week. Obviously, they were expected to struggle. We'll come on to their game a bit later. Cologne are another side that just can't get that first win. That's 3 teams still after 7 games that haven't picked up the first win. So I think Mainz will be looking at that and they'll be thinking, we're a better side than Schalke. I think they are. And every week that goes by, I'm getting worried sick for Schalke, really. They must be looking at this. Let's be honest, it was another poor performance, really, against a side that they should have. I was tipping them to win. I tipped it to a few people that Schalke were going to finally get that win this week. But it's 23 games now. It's 23 Bundesliga games with no win for Schalke. And I don't really see it, even although it's a draw away from home, I don't really think there's that many positives in terms of the performance it can take away, to be honest. Because, if you can't beat Mainz on the form that they're in, then who are you going to beat in the Bundesliga,
Yeah, it's very tricky. So like the state that obviously they're in at the moment, they are obviously very much in free fall. Obviously this form since we've come out of lockdown and been able to play football again in the Bundesliga, it's, obviously they're fortunate that they had points on the board already last season, or else they may have already been relegated. So Schalke fans around the world, of course, be well worried and probably rightly so at the moment. But at the end of the day, as ugly as performance as sometimes it can be, a point on the board is never a bad thing. So that they can just move on, reset, try and get a few things in place over the international break, and then come back refreshed.
Yeah, I mean, if there are any positives, it's I don't think many of their players are going to be going on international break this this fortnight. Yeah, given the performance levels for this season, so I think they'll have most of the squad. I think there's a couple of guys. The Turkish defender in there will go off for international duty, but I think other than that, they'll have the whole team ready to go against Wolfsburg at home. Unbeaten Wolfsburg as well, so they're not going to be overly hopeful of getting the win there. But I mean, they've got to keep going. Every game's a new opportunity, and as I've said before, I do think it's the case. If they can get that first win within the next 4 or 5 games, then I do think they can potentially just stay up based on like scrappy 1-0s or 2-1s. But I think the longer it goes without that win, I mean, it's closing down on a year now. It was January, the last win. It's just, you can't imagine it, can you? Really, you cannot imagine it. Yeah. Okay, so enough about them. Let's move on to a team that are having a brilliant season, by the way. Yeah, Union Berlin 5-0 against Armenia Bielefeld, who are sinking faster than a proverbial stone at the minute after a strong start with 4 points in their opening 2 games. They haven't picked up a single bean since then in the last 5. But I mean, let's focus mostly on Berlin in this because I think they were brilliant, weren't they? Max Kruse, I mean, we both said that at the start of the season that he's having he was a good signing, experience, quality in an attacking midfield / striking position. I mean, obviously backing up the 3-1 win at Hoffenheim on Monday where he was brilliant again. I mean, this is just, he's turning into a better signing than anyone could have expected, I think, Rory.
Yeah, definitely. He's obviously come on to run the show this weekend and tear Armenia to pieces with his play. Obviously, just neatly joining things up, absolutely crucial in a lot of obviously the 5 goals and getting himself one from the penalty spot. Yeah, really impressive from Union, who obviously had now pushed themselves right up into the mix in terms of European places. So that's obviously going to be really exciting for their fans. So long may that continue. Kruse's form is absolutely fantastic, supported well by all his players and teammates. Obviously, the debutant, I think it was Endo, who scored on his first start, but then went off injured. So that's a bit of a shame. And then obviously, with it being 3-0 at half time, you're pretty sure it's game over. Quite shocked from Armenia point of view to have conceded so many. The one thing that we've given them credit for this season is usually being in the fight. Like not conceding too many goals, and unfortunately that has happened this weekend. So that will be a worry ultimately for them, and naturally their form is starting to dip a little bit, and they've now unfortunately been pulled into this bottom 5 kind of grouping that we're starting to see after these first 7 games so far. That's obviously to be expected, and they'll at least be happy to have the first win on the board already. Again, it might be the case for Armenia where an international break is quite welcome. They can obviously get a bit of time themselves to set themselves up again for being really hard to beat, get themselves in behind the ball, and then they can try and counter on teams and get the odd goal. But yeah, from an Union perspective, like the sky's the limit, really. They're playing really good football. They're up in the mix for the European places, and from their point of view, it's probably quite a shame the international breaks happened, because obviously they've just scored 8 goals in 2 games, only conceded 1, and they're really starting to gather momentum, which can sometimes be halted and stalled by international breaks. So I think it's a bit of a bad thing for them, really, despite how well they're playing. So hopefully I'm wrong and they continue to impress, because I know, Mark, you're a big fan of theirs already, and you tipped them to do really well, which is what they're now starting to do as they're settling into their football. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully that can continue after the international break.
Yeah, absolutely. I think obviously I did tip them for 6th or 7th position, But I think, I mean, a lot of people would have thought I was crazy with that, but I'm just glad. I mean, this is the team that I expected. But I was just going to come to that. They're not the team that I expected because they're even better, actually. That's the reality. Last season, they were more of a pragmatic kind of side. I mean, they were very dangerous from set plays, but I mean, some of the goals they're scoring at the minute, they're like open play, like really good football, brilliant team moves, you know.
Yeah.
Like Cruiser is like, I mean, for me, he's been one of the players of the season in the whole Bundesliga so far. I mean, he got 2 assists, 2 brilliant assists as well as the penalty. I mean, a brilliant performance as well. His selflessness is fantastic as well. I mean, most strikers, I mean, I don't know if you saw the game against Hoffenheim midweek, but it was like he went through one-on-one and he squared it to the running. A lot of, if that was Mo Salah or someone like that, he would have taken the shot, no doubt about it. But I mean, he wanted to make sure that he got the 3 points. He's a real team player. But it's not only him. I mean, Trimmel at right back as well actually has one of the highest, over 10 assists in 2020. From fullback, for Union Berlin, like a great player as well. And they've got quality all over the pitch, and some of the football that they're playing is just fantastic, really. And even in net, when they need a keeper to make a save, not so much against Bielefeld, but the week before against Hoffenheim. I mean, Andreas Luther is making some really, really good saves. And obviously, they made a big signing, Loris Karius, in summer. He was kind of the big signing, really, and he can't even get on the pitch. So I think that sums up how well they're doing this season. I mean, if you're from the east side of Berlin at the moment, you're going to be absolutely loving life, really. What one defeat all season. That was the first game as well. Yeah. There's 6 unbeaten, and I think 3 or 4 of them have been wins too. So it's all going really, really well in the east side of Berlin. As for Armenia, I mean, it is... I think every single Bundesliga fan on the planet tipped them for bottom of the league this year, let's be honest. And I think now we are starting to see reasons why we tipped them bottom. I mean, did they create really anything in this game? Maybe a couple of half chances, but not much at all. And the defence that was really kind of performing well at the start of the season is just, I don't think it's so much that the defence is bad, it's just that there's teams that can carve them open. You know, they're not really making big mistakes. But there's a lot of quality in this league, even from teams like Union and some of the teams that were predicted to finish lower in the league. Yeah. Do you think Armenia can stay up, or do you think it's starting to look a bit bleak for them at the minute with 5 defeats in a row?
I mean, naturally, there's not many positives that you can take when you are on a streak like this. It is sometimes really hard to stop the rot. So, like I said, sometimes you just need a bit of luck, whether it's something falling your way during a match, or, like I said, whether it's just sometimes getting a bit of time with your coaches, with your staff on the training pitch, like what might happen during an international break. Obviously, they came into the league as newcomers and not obviously with not any real expectations other than trying to scrap for not to be relegated. So I think that they certainly got qualities that no other team have. They've got a lot of grit and battle about them, which is obviously going to be key as this season goes on. So by far is it, gloom and doom for the club. I'm sure they'll be able to get back to their ways of being nice and tight and compact, staying in games and being able to nick games on the counter. So I'm sure they'll be well in the race as the season goes on.
Absolutely. I think it does give the previous 2 teams, Mainz and Schalke, hope, though, I guess, that they can at least make the relegation playoff. Yeah. Okay, so that's the end of our OTB's feature 4. So let's just round up the other games as well quickly. So yeah, the Friday night game was another 1-1 draw. Friday night means 1-1 draws. Get your money on it for the next time. I think there's no Friday night game after the internationals next week, but then there will be the week after. But yeah, I mean, this time it was obviously Werder Bremen v Cologne, a 1-1 draw. I think Werder are turning into draw specialists, I think, Rory.
They are a bit, yeah. It's another 1-1 draw for Werder. I mean, certainly the first half was quite stale and didn't really get going too long, and that probably suited Cologne a bit more. They were able to just be a bit scrappy, stay in the fight, and then obviously they take the lead from an excellent free kick from Duda, I believe it was, which is then eventually put into his own net. by Moisander, which was pretty impossible not to. He was basically facing his goal, and the ball's coming in with such pace and curl that it's pretty hard to defend. So fantastic free kick from Duda. From that point forward, obviously, it's all about trying to scrap and fight to the death for those 3 points for the side. Unfortunately, they weren't able to do it. Obviously, Chong for Werder comes on as a sub and makes, well, it's nice to see him come on and make a positive impact, because his cross led to the handball, which was given as a penalty, which is then converted by their talisman, Bittencourt. And as that goal goes in, you're starting to worry for the away side if they can hold on, which they just about did. I know Bittencourt and I think Josh Sargent had a header right at the end, which he could have done better with. But yeah, just one of those games, 1-1. I mean, it's becoming a bit of an issue for Werder that they can't convert these games into wins. But from Cologne's side point of view, they'll take the point and move on.
Yeah, definitely. I think Cologne will probably be the happier in the end. But I mean, as the game went, maybe until they got the goal, they were probably just about the better side. But they're another side that need to get that first win. But I'm not quite as worried for Cologne as I am for some of these other sides. The previous 3 sides you mentioned, Mainz, Schalke, and Bielefeld. I think at the moment, out of the kind of bottom 4 or 5, I'd say I've just seen enough in them to think that they might just get a few wins and stay up. Yeah. Okay, so moving on to the Saturday games, a brilliant. We always mentioned that Hertha Berlin are a much better away side. I mean, it was a 3-0 win for them away in Augsburg, who've started the season well. I mean, it was a good performance too. I think nobody can really doubt that they deserved the 3 points. Obviously, it took the penalty, which was a clumsy challenge from the Augsburg defender, but it was definitely a penalty. I mean, after that, it was cruise control really from Hertha, and they played. I mean, it was a good away performance. You know, they played a lot on the counter attack, a couple of good goals on the counter. I mean, it was a really, really comfortable win. They're not going to get a more easy win than that this season, you know. I mean, 10 shots against 5 away from home. Yeah. It was also Piatek getting that goal at the end of the game. That was really important as well, because he was maybe one of their biggest signings in a number of years, to be honest, Piatek, the former AC Milan striker. And I think he's not really made the kind of impact that people might have imagined since joining the club. But I mean, that is a big goal for them. Yeah, did you catch much of that one, Rory?
Yeah, I think, as we said, it is one of those where Hertha seem to be a lot more comfortable playing away from home. So they're again able to enjoy another good away day victory against what have been a good team so far this season in terms of quick starters with Augsburg, who just haven't quite hit their straps last couple of games. So yeah, Piatek getting on the score sheet for the first time this season is quite important for them, I think. Certainly from a mental point of view from the striker, it certainly kind of takes that pressure off a little bit, and he can take a lot of confidence from it. And then, yeah, just moving forward for them, it pushes Hertha in the right direction. They were flirting around with the bottom 3 a little bit. So that win pushes them in the right direction. No massive disaster for Augsburg, who are sitting comfortably in mid-table.
Yeah, I was never really worried for Hertha. I think they're a good side, and it was just a case of getting that statement win, and I think that's it. Yeah, I think away from home they're a really capable side, but they've got to start playing well at the Olympiastadion, because if you don't win, if you're so bad at home, then you can't really finish above that kind of bottom 5 or 6, really. And I think that's the next test for them. Okay, so moving on to another 3-0 win, but this time a home win. I think nobody's really surprised at this one. Leipzig thrashing, really, Freiburg, 3-0 at home. Very, very easy Saturday afternoon stroll in the park, really, for Freiburg. Yeah. Sorry, for Leipzig, obviously, not Freiburg. Yeah. Obviously, yeah. I mean, on the back of so many games, obviously, back-to-back 3 weeks in a row European games and some away travel as well. Do you think this is a good, very confident performance from Leipzig, Rory? Yeah,
like you mentioned, obviously they're having to back it up twice a week, which is very difficult. And might not as well be particularly used to doing that. It's quite a demanding thing on teams, and it stretches teams, especially in terms of squad depth. But yeah, this particular game suited them down to the grounds. I think they hit the post a couple of times before taking the lead eventually, and then the SABITZER penalty kills the game. And then again, we have to mention Angelino, who scored an absolute worldie of a free kick, absolute fantastic strike, top bins. He's got to be up there with one of the signings of the season as well. From left back, I think he's got 3 goals in the league and 2 in the Champions League. For strictly speaking, a left back, I know he doesn't play like a traditional one. He's been superb. So yeah, great day at the office for them. Keeps them within 2 points of the leaders Bayern Munich, and they can go into the international break very satisfied and will enjoy a little bit of a rest if any of their players aren't on international duty, that is.
Yeah, and as for Freiburg, it is getting a little bit worrying, I think. I think it's like, obviously they lost a few key players, similar to Union Berlin, but they've not really replaced them this season. That's the problem. And I think they started off okay, but I think the last 2 or 3 performances have been short of quality, really. And I think obviously now it is 14th place, 6 points from 7 games. It is I wouldn't say they need to be overly worried because they're still better at the moment than 4 or 5 other teams in the league. But I think, yeah, they're definitely looking like a side that could potentially slip into that dogfight. Maybe not quite time to worry because they have played, obviously, Leverkusen and Leipzig, who are 2 of that top 5 the last 2 weeks. But I mean, away from home particularly, they don't really create chances, let alone score goals. And I think that is a bit of a concern, especially in the Bundesliga where you need to score goals, really, because goals are like the life and breath of the Bundesliga, really, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so moving on to another. To be honest, this game, I mentioned to Rory before we started the show today, I mean, for me, this was arguably the game of the weekend. I mean, this was a really entertaining game of football. Stuttgart versus Frankfurt ending in a 2-2 draw. But I mean, how did Stuttgart not win the game? You know, they go 2-0 up. My man, Gonzalo Castro, who again, I mentioned Max Kruse earlier in the season. He's been one of my players of the season this year, the veteran, really, the Bundesliga veteran, played previously for Leverkusen and Dortmund for a couple of years too. But I mean, is it getting to the point, is it getting a bit worrying for Stuttgart that they're playing so well at the moment, every game, but they're not really getting enough wins, Rory?
Yeah, I was just about to touch on that, actually. You make a very good point, Mark, about, I mean, I've been full of praise for Stuttgart so far this season. Really enjoyed the way they play football, and every game that they play is really entertaining. They're usually fast starters in the game, which, of course, they were again this weekend, getting themselves a 2-0 lead. Should have been 3-4. It could have been anything if they'd taken their chances. But, yeah, as you mentioned, they've been pegged back again. I think it's their 4th draw now out of the 7 games. Obviously, they've got some wins in there as well. But if they had converted those, say 2 of those draws into wins like they should have done this weekend, that's an extra 4 points that they've been missing out on. Hopefully, it doesn't come back to haunt them later on in the season if they get dragged further down the league. The way that they're playing now doesn't make me think that will happen. I think they'll be really comfortable. Like you say, superbly led by Castro. Gonzalez, their playmaker, has been playing really well in the last couple of games. He's got himself a couple of goals and got himself an assist for Castro's goal. It is just about having that killer instinct at the top level of football, which they're now obviously having to adjust to again. I think they hit the bar in a couple of other chances, which would, it should have made it 3-0, and then ultimately, there's quality in Frankfurt. So Andre Silva, of course, bagging from a good cutback, and then they're just eventually pulled back in for a 2-2 draw. But yeah, it's a hard game to summarise really quickly for us because, again, like we said, all these games this weekend have been absolutely top notch. So credit to both teams for contributing to a really good game of football.
Yeah, I think it's a case of performance-wise, Stuttgart, it couldn't have gone better, literally. For me, the first 7 games performance-wise, I think in all apart from one of those games have been the better side. Like, that's what we're looking at now. Stuttgart, both of us had them down. I think I put them 3rd from bottom this season, actually, or even 2nd from bottom. And I didn't fancy the look of them at all, to be honest. But, they've been really good. Like, really going forward, but I do think defensively they concede goals from set plays. The last 2 weeks that's happened actually now. Yeah, they've obviously against Schalke last week, they dominated that game as well, but conceded from the set play. And then this week as well, I mean, that is, some of the marking is a bit dodgy. If there's anything that they can improve on, it's definitely the defending from set plays, because, I mean, it's careless to play so well, to create so many chances, and then to keep giving goals away from like headers off corners and things. It's a bit disappointing, because it's not that, as a defensive side, you are the favourite when you're clearing a corner, you know, and you've got to kind of, they should be able to do a bit better, really, from the defending from corners, I think. But it's, but all in all, you know, and again, Stuttgart, they've got a lot of fight in that team. I still don't think we've seen the best of Stuttgart this season. Not Stuttgart, Frankfurt, yeah. I don't think we've seen the best of Frankfurt this season. But I mean, as you say, the advantage for them is that they have got Andre Silva and Bas Dost, like, creating chances and going close. And especially Silva has been really good this season. I think they have to start games a bit faster, though, for Frankfurt, because they do seem to be coming out of the blocks a bit slowly. But yeah, very good game again. Can't really fault either team in this match overall. So finally, actually, the last game was another. I mean, the fact that this is the last game is really harsh, to be honest, because it is. It's our favourite team for the last match. It's our Sunday specialist. It was Wolfsburg 2, Hoffenheim 1. I mean, really, really good game, this one, Rory.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, again, it's a good win for Wolfsburg. They carry on their good form. They're kind of stumbling into good form now, and obviously they're getting their rewards and looking a lot better in terms of the league table as well. Obviously they get themselves off the mark with Stefan with a good goal, which was overturned by VAR. I thought a lot of the VAR decisions this weekend again were very succinct and very, very well done. And then obviously Weghorst makes it 2-0 with a bit of a goalmouth scramble after he's played through on goal. And then it's just kind of starting to peter out a little bit as it's 2-0. And then absolute carnage in the last 5 minutes of this game. So as Weghorst then steps up to take a penalty for Wolfsburg after some terrible defending by Hoffenheim, he then puts it wide for then Hoffenheim to go up the other end and score a goal from some very questionable defending by Brooks at the other end for Wolfsburg. So it makes it a game on. Admayan, I think that's how you pronounce it, scored to make it 2-1. And then drama right at the end again. Maximilian Arnold shoving his hand in the air for whatever reason. Absolutely bone stupid, really. Like putting his team in that position as well. Looked like Hoffenheim were going to get themselves a creditable draw, and then is saved. The penalty is saved right at the end. Brilliant save by the keeper to keep it 2-1. And then what probably isn't captured in some of the games which I saw live was that there potentially could have been another penalty to Hoffenheim really late on, which wasn't looked at by VAR, which I found quite strange. And the game obviously was then finished. So Wolfsburg get away with one. But yeah, drama to the last. And as you said, it's not. Obviously, we can't give it enough credit because it's our last game, but it was absolutely fantastic drama right at the end of the game. So good win for Wolfsburg. Hoffenheim's form in Europe's really good, but they're starting to slide down the table a little bit now in the Bundesliga, which is what might be a little bit of a worry.
Yeah, again, I think with Hoffenheim, it's a Thursday night, Sunday thing. You know, I think the performances aren't bad, but it's just things aren't going for them at the moment. Even against Union on Monday, they had tons of chances, but I mean, the keeper was inspired that game for Union. And then this week, obviously, they missed the penalty. Then perhaps they could have another penalty deep into stoppage time. They could easily come away with a point in the end today. Although Wolfsburg will feel that they should have been comfortably closing that one out with 5 minutes to go. But yeah, great game. Yeah. So yeah, that rounds up a brilliant, mesmerizing week of football. Yeah, I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed our analysis too.
Absolutely. So we're going to move on to our prediction segment, and we'll go through that nice and speedily, as obviously we've taken up a lot of our time going through the match analysis. So we're going to be going on to our new and latestly titled segment, Petre. So that's me, Petre and Pundits Predict. So I'll be running through our predictions for next weekend, which is obviously in a couple of weeks' time. So the first game that is going to be happening on Saturday afternoon, which will be the 21st November, is Borussia Mönchengladbach hosting FC Augsburg, which I believe is going to be a 3-1 home win. See Borussia Mönchengladbach just being too strong. Mark, your prediction for this one?
Yeah, I've gone 2-0 home win, Gladbach win.
Yeah, very good. And then there's a home game for Hoffenheim. They're hosting VfB Stuttgart. Again, I've really enjoyed the way Stuttgart have started the season, and Hoffenheim just starting to struggle a little bit. So I'm saying one might be a shock 2-1 away win to the VfB Stuttgart. Mark?
Yeah, I've gone for a 2-2 draw. Again, I think this could be a really, really open game. If any betting men out there, then I'd go for a score like over 3.5 goals there for me.
Very good. Yeah, and then Bayern Munich are hosting Werder Bremen. I think the trend of 1-1 draws might come to an end here. I'm saying 3-0 to Bayern Munich.
Yeah, I'm going for 4-0 there. 4-0 Bayern.
Yeah. Of course. A couple of other afternoon games on Saturday will be Armenia Bielefeld hosting Bayer Leverkusen. Based on the form of both teams at the moment, can't see anything but an away win, saying 3-1 to Leverkusen.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. I've gone for 3-1 as well. It doesn't get any easier for Bielefeld, does it?
No, not at all. Then the final afternoon game on the Saturday is Schalke hosting Wolfsburg. Wolfsburg obviously seems to be hitting a bit of form, whether it's, they're kind of stumbling into it a little bit. So I'm saying 2-1 away win for Wolfsburg. Mark?
Wow, I've also gone for a great minds think alike, as they say.
Well,
I've also gone for a 2-1 away win there for Wolfsburg. I just think Wolfsburg have got more quality than Schalke.
Yeah, absolutely. Then there's a early evening kickoff between Frankfurt and RB Leipzig, which should be a quite entertaining game by all accounts. So I'm saying it's going to be a 2-2 draw. I reckon RB might drop some points next weekend.
Yeah, I've actually gone for a 2-1 Frankfurt home win. I just think Frankfurt like these kind of games, and I do, as you know, I think Leipzig in these kind of big games away from home, they struggle a little bit. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 Frankfurt win.
Very good. And then we got a Saturday evening kickoff as well, which is Hertha Berlin hosting Borussia Dortmund. Based on the fact that Hertha don't really seem to click at home, I'm saying Dortmund 2-1 away win.
Yeah, I've gone for a 2-0. I mean, I just can't see Hertha stopping Dortmund at home.
Of course. Then moving on to what will be our Sunday afternoon games, we've got Freiburg hosting FC Mainz, FV Mainz, and I'm saying it will be a 1-1 draw. Both clubs obviously struggling at the moment, so yeah, saying 1-1, not a classic.
Yeah, this is another 6-pointer for Mainz. Really, they need to get that win. But I'm actually going to go for a 2-1 Freiburg win. I've just got a feeling that we'll see the old school Freiburg this week. Well, next week.
Very good. And then the final game of that weekend will be match day 8. Will be Cologne hosting Union Berlin. And I believe that the away side will come away with the 3 points, 2-1. I am thinking. Mark, what's your prediction for this last game?
Yeah, I've gone for a 1-1 draw actually in that game. I do think it's. I've seen enough from Cologne to think that things are getting a bit better, and I think Union will still be happy with a 1-1 draw on the back of 3 great results really.
Good stuff. So we'll just start to round up the show now, and we're going on to our fun fact, which we have now renamed and retitled Bundesliga Fakten mit Rory. So for all of you who are not completely fluent in German, that also stands for Bundesliga Facts with Rory, myself. So couple of facts and stats for you for this weekend. They're of a Der Klassiker nature. So the first one is that Robert Lewandowski has now bagged 17 goals in 13 games against his former club. He really is the scourge of Dortmund. That is really haunting stats. And absolutely very impressive by the striker. And then on to another striker, Marco Reus has scored his 8th goal now against Bayern Munich in the Bundesliga. So that's a very impressive record. and his 129th Bundesliga goal, which takes him to 24th on the all-time top scorers chart in the Bundesliga. So that's very impressive from the Bundesliga man himself as well. So that's it for Bundesliga Fakten mit Rory for this weekend. So that kind of wraps us up for this weekend. It's been a nice, enjoyable show. It's been another long one because there's been so much to talk about, so much to enjoy this weekend. So it's been absolutely fantastic to talk through it with Mark as per usual. So please, if you are watching on YouTube and you have enjoyed the show and enjoyed the Bundesliga this week, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the big red button. We'll be here every weekend throughout the season reviewing everything that goes on. So please do get involved. And if you're listening on an audio platform, please do drop us a subscribe and leave us a rating and a review. Mark, do you want to finish things off?
Absolutely, yes. So remember, as Rory said, it's been a brilliant weekend of Bundesliga action. If you haven't had enough of your football fix for this weekend, please check out our Twitter. We have tons of articles and brilliant stuff related to the beautiful game. And we also have our website as well, which you can check out, links to our YouTube. Remember to subscribe and check us out on there. Also, check out the League One show, which I debuted on last week, by the way. So, yeah, you've got to give us a like and give us a check out there as well. But, yeah, I mean, it's been, for me, the best weekend of the season this weekend. I'm still buzzing over it, to be honest. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed our show, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks after the break. So,
indeed.
Thank you. And
see you next
as
time.
Say in Germany, tschüss.
See ya.